preliminary foundation question to ask the next
Keep going.
question. Can I ask that question then?
Rephrase the question.
Okay. And doesn't the table state, Dr. Cotton, that there are approximately 20,000 to 40,000 nanograms of DNA in a milliliter of blood?
That's my recollection, yes.
And are you aware, Dr. Cotton, that there are approximately 20 drops of blood in a milliliter of blood?
No, drops aren't too good in terms of quantitation.
Well, would you agree that as a rough estimate, that there are approximately 20 drops of blood in a milliliter of blood?
I don't really know, and when you're using something, the opening of that instrument, like if you have a pipette tip with a big opening versus a little opening, you have different size drops. So I'd rather work in some other quantitative sense than drops.
Have you reviewed any literature which suggested that there were approximately 20 drops of blood in a milliliter of blood?
Well, if I ever have, I wouldn't remember now, so I'm sorry.
Can you estimate, based on your own experience, approximately how many nanograms of blood, how many nanograms of DNA are in a drop of blood, an average drop of blood?
No.
Can you give a range?
Well, if I got, not easily.
Well, to the best of your ability, doctor, what would that range be?
I don't think I can give you a range, given that what I'm telling you is I don't really know what the volume is in a drop, and therefore I'm hesitant to try to carry that any further.
All right. Dr. Cotton, but you would agree that at least as to all these samples from the Bundy walkway, they either experienced moderate or extreme degrees of degradation. Is that right?
Yes, I do.
And you cannot tell, Dr. Cotton, when you look at the yield gel or the slot blot, as to whether the degraded or the remaining DNA that you see is there because it's from the original source, or is there as a result of cross-contamination. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I believe you also said, Dr. Cotton, that the role that plastic bags play in preventing cross-contamination is that obviously if a sample is in one plastic bag and another sample is in a second plastic bag, that they're not going to cross-contaminate while in that status. Is that right?
Yes.
But would you agree, Dr. Cotton, that once the samples are removed from the plastic bags are no longer a deterrent to cross-contamination? Isn't that right?
Yes, that's of course right.
And Dr. Cotton, when you're referring to the reagent blank control lighting up two DNA dots in this particular case, I believe you said that that there's some discretion left to the PhDs in the laboratory to decide whether or not to retest. Is that correct?
Or to report or to do some other options that might be available.
Isn't it a fact, Dr. Cotton, that the protocol states that when the results, that when a questionable result is reported, that it's to be interpreted by the PhDs in the laboratory?
Yes.
And would you agree, Dr. Cotton, that with respect to the presence of those two dots, those two DNA dots on the reagent blank, their presence on those reagent blanks was not questioned?
No, it's obviously there. I mean, it was recorded by the analyst who read the strips, and if I remember correctly, you can just barely see it in the photos, but you can see it. So it's clearly there.
And it was clearly there by both analysts who reviewed that data, correct?
Yes.
And Dr. Cotton, you also talking about how your database has approximately 600 people in it. Is that correct?
If you add up all the three racial groups, taking into account you don't have the same number of people in each probe, it's, I think, between 500 and 600.
And your database includes 5 different genetic loci, right, for the RFLPs?
Yes, it does.
And I asked you, you may recall, on cross-examination initially, if you could find out for us as to how many people in that African American database you actually ran all 5 genetic markers on. Do you recall me asking that question?
Yes, I do.
And I believe you said you could find that out overnight. Is that right?
That's right.
And Dr. Cotton, how many members of your African American database have been subjected to all 5 genetic loci in this case?
Well, somebody took the sheet from me.
I'm sorry.
It's not very many.
Is it 2?
Yes, of all the blacks, there are only 2 that are across all 5.
2 people in the entire African American database have been subjected to all 5 loci in your laboratory. Is that right?
Well, that's true. It's,
Now, Dr. Cotton,
Sorry, could the witness finish the answer, please?
Yes.
I don't think that's a critical feature.
Dr. Cotton, you gave an answer before on the subject of the assumption of independence of these different genetic traits. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
And would you agree, Dr. Cotton, that that issue, okay, that, as to that assumption of independence, is a question that arises in the, or is in the province of population geneticists?
Yes.
And Dr. Cotton, do you consider yourself an expert in the field of population genetics?
No, I'm certainly not an academic expert in the field of population genetics. I know a lot about it as it pertains to forensic DNA typing, but there's much more to know beyond what I know.
And so you wouldn't consider yourself an expert in that field?
No, I don't think so.
And Dr. Cotton, you said at the very close of the redirect examination that these statistics that you put up on the board only tell you about the rarity of a particular profile. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what I said.
And so would you agree, Dr. Cotton, that those statistics tell you nothing about the probability of a false positive at LAPD?
Yes, of course that's right.
No further questions. 1 second.
Mr. Clark?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. One topic.
Okay. If you have to.
Dr. Cotton, with regard to these 5 probes, do you need all 5 probes run on the same people in your database to create these estimates of frequencies of these various characteristics?
You do not need to have all 5 probes on all the people in order to create these estimates. For statistical purposes of when tests are done for independence, for RFLP testing, those tests are generally done for pairs of loci, so you need pairs of people that have been done on 2 at a minimum, and this database has those pairs. It isn't that more information can't be gained if you have people across all 5 loci, but we do have enough information as the database exists for those tests of independence to be done.
Has or have your 5 probes been looked at for purposes of determining if they are independent from one another?
Yes, they have.
And has that examination been published in the scientific literature?
Yes.
Hearsay and discovery.
All right. The fact that it's been published is not hearsay. What it says is hearsay. Proceed.
I'm sorry, was the answer yes, Dr. Cotton?
It has been published.
And was that publication an examination of your database and a determination of independence at these 5 probes?
Objection.
Oh, well,
Yes.
Who published that?
Dr. Bruce Weir from North Carolina State University.
Has there been any publication to your knowledge demonstrating that your 5 genetic markers are not independent of one another?
No, there has not.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
Dr. Cotton, but in this case, when you calculated the frequency of the rarity of Mr. Simpson's genetic profile, you did rely on all 5 loci, is that correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And so as to the entire, excuse me. And so in your database, the number of people that you have typed, like Mr. Simpson, across all 5 loci is just 2 people, isn't that right?
Across all 5, yes.
Yes. No further questions.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the evening at this time. Please remember all of my admonitions to you. Do not discuss the case amongst yourselves. Do not form any opinions about the case. Do not allow anybody to communicate with you. Don't conduct any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. As far as the jury is concerned, we'll stand in recess until tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. And Dr. Cotton, you may step down. As soon as we clear the jury, we'll have a few discussions about plans for tomorrow. All right.